Sorry. Can I ask a question? I'm sorry. I just wanted to ask a question real quick. Are we live or is this?
We are now.
Okay. Oh, well, there you go. Great. Okay.
Hey, good evening, everyone, and happy Valentine's Day. Thanks for joining us on your writer's journey. I'm your host, Lauren Moore, and with me is Kayleen Williams and our special guest, Brian Meeks. To succeed in the author, you need 4 things: great book, great cover and blurb, and to get your book in front of eyeballs. Enter Amazon ads. Successful Amazon ad runs can make your career, but a failed one can make you want to tear your hair out. Keep both your hair and your big account intact by joining us on this chat tonight with Brian Meeks, who's going to tell us how to run our Amazon ads. He's the man who literally wrote the book on mastering Amazon ads. We're going to ask him how to set up your first ad campaign, keep it running, and bid effectively on ads with Amazon's ever-changing landscape. So Brian, thanks for coming on the show.
I am thrilled to be here. This is fun.
How have things been going with you?
Things have been going so well. We're talking a level of awesomeness that is probably offensive. It is amazing. I don't know, some of the folks listening may know, I went to the 20 Books Bali conference and had an amazing time, was so filled with motivation. When I came back, I started writing a fiction again, which I haven't done since I began 2 years ago working on the Mastering Amazon Ads book. And I just figured out today's the 14th. I got back from Bali on the 12th. And in that time, I've done 87,000 words, which is pretty good for just over a month. And today I did a cover reveal for my new book, Mastering Amazon Descriptions, which I have been given permission to share the screen really quickly and show off my new cover. There is Mastering Amazon Descriptions. I think it's
pretty.
It is pretty. I'm very excited about this book, and then I will stop sharing because that was good. But it was incredibly exciting getting that done. I was working prior to the show. I filled out the ISBNs. I'll be uploading it later tonight and setting up the pre-order. So I would think tomorrow sometime it'll be available on Amazon, and then the plan is I'm going to make, and this is a little, your first tip, author tip if you're new to this. Pre-orders, when you put them up, you can't make any changes to your book 72 hours before the pre-order date. I want the book to go live on Monday, but that means that Friday, Saturday, and Sunday I won't be able to do any tweaking. So I'll be putting the pre-order up. And if you go to Amazon tomorrow, you'll likely be able to see it. And it will say you're going to get the book on the 25th. But my intent is to actually turn it to live on Monday, the 18th. And so that's how you get around that 72-hour window. So I'm going to be doing that tonight. And then I'll have that'll be my 18th book. And I'm excited about that. And one more thing. I mean, like I said, it's been going so awesome. I can barely stand it. Earlier today, I finished my second novel in my new fantasy series. So I've been crushing it.
Congrats, that's awesome.
So before Amazon Descriptions, we do need to figure out what the ads are. So for those of us who are total newbies to Amazon ads and all of that, what exactly is an Amazon ad and why are they important?
Amazon ads are a way for you, the author, to get your book in front of shoppers on Amazon or readers on Kindle. Now, there are 2 types of ads at present. There's the lock screen ads and then the sponsored product ads. Most people have experience that have been doing ads a while with the sponsored product. They're often called keyword ads. We're going to mostly be talking about those. Lock screen, the idea is when a person turns on their Kindle, the lock screen, there will be an ad for a single book. It's great real estate, but admittedly it's been about 35 days since they changed from product display ads to lock screen. All of I guess it's anecdotal at this point because most people don't have enough data to draw statistically valid conclusions, but there haven't been really great reports from people as far as the conversions on lock screen. So it's something that for now, while I'm doing testing, because I want to learn about them so I can tell people when they ask me questions the right answer, it may be best if you're new to this to avoid the lock screen for a little while, because it doesn't feel like they've got it completely nailed down. There's rumors that as an example, if a person does not have their Kindle connected to the internet, they can click on an ad and it goes to a landing page, not your book, just something generated by the Kindle, and you get charged for a click. Well, that's not really a great thing, because they can't buy your book on that page. They're not connected to the internet. And I think this happens a lot. So for now, lock screen ads are probably best to hold off on until some people start seeing really good results. Now, the sponsored product ads, those are ones where you have a whole massive list of keywords. You put those in, and then when people are searching on a book, they will go down, and there may be new people. There's a thing called also bots at the bottom of your book. If you go to Amazon and look at a book, you know what? Why don't I just share the screen again and grab an Amazon page so that we can in fact look at a book, because that's the beauty of these chats. I'm just going to grab Henry Wood Detective Agency, which was my first ever book, and I quite like it. Okay, so here's Henry Wood Detective Agency. This top one is a sponsored product ad. If I click on this, I'm going to get charged for a click. This, however, is the organic Henry Wood that returns when I type in the title, so I will click on that. Now, here's the landing page. If you scroll down, these are also bots. It means that customers who bought Henry Wood Detective Agency also purchase these other books, which these are all me. Arthur Byrne is a pen name. And then we go to the next page. This is not me. This is me. And then the rest are other people. And so people who enjoyed Henry Wood Detective Agency may have, or they did also buy Eat, Pray, and Die. Now,
great title.
It is a great title. Right below that are the sponsored products related to this item. So these are ads. These ads, if I click on any of them, the person, Joy Ellis, John Mefford, they will get charged for a click. There are 48 pages, if you look up here, of ads. There's Mark Dawson. He's kind of famous. Mm-hmm. The thing that I want to point out, Russell Blake, he's a friend of mine. He does pretty well. Mm-hmm. Is that the first thing that new people to Amazon ads stress out about is landing on this first page. And I want to talk, if I can, because I don't think you'll bring this up as far as questions, how not important that is. I mean, the people on this first page likely get the most clicks. Absolutely. They likely have the most impressions. But you know what? They are bidding vastly more than the people that are on this page and the ones on page 3. So the thing is, if you okay, let's just, I don't want to click on their ad, but yeah, but tough. This person's, it's just the way it goes. Okay, so we go here to another book and we go down, and what you're going to see is a lot of the same books will be, there's that one that was number 1, the first one on mine, and the first one on that. So this person is bidding really high and probably landing on the first page for almost all of Joy's, all the keywords she selected. And that is incredibly expensive. Now, if all the books are the same, then people that are shopping, if they're seeing the same ones all the time, they'll click and go to the next page because maybe they've already read all those 7. There's only 7 or 8. If you maximize it to the biggest part of the screen, you get 1, 2, 3, you get 8. So if all of the books in your genre on every single book out there are the same 7 or 8 titles, I wouldn't worry about trying to get on page 1, because page 2 is going to be by default where a lot of people go because they've already seen that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So I was also, are these the ones that are the keyword based ads?
Yes, these are the keyword ads.
Okay.
Yes, and so somebody out there who, in their ad, they either picked Henry Wood Detective Agency or my name, Brian Meeks. Or maybe they picked mystery or thriller or I would think that any of the keywords I have in my metadata, and again, for those who are new, when you put a book up on Amazon, you're allowed to put in 7 keywords that help with organic sales. So I would think any of those would potentially get them, when it's on my book, landing in that spot.
Just real quick, for someone who has no idea about Amazon ads at all, they're watching this video for the first time. They don't know what an Amazon ad is or how to make one. What is one? How do you set it? What do you mean by bids?
Okay, well, it's a bid system. So the setting up Amazon ads, you log into KDP, which is KDP is where authors who have published already with Amazon go to find out their sales numbers. It's where they go to put in the book's information. It's also where they go to do the advertising. You click on, there's a link, and it takes you to the advertising section, and up will come the lock screen ads as one option. The sponsored products is another. And like I said, if you're new, you probably want to begin with the sponsored products. It's a big box. I mean, Amazon has done a really nice job with the layout, in that I would wager that if you have 100 people listening to your show right now that have not published on Amazon yet, and all of them tomorrow put up their first book, because obviously you can't run an ad until you have a book in the system. But let's say 100 people were new and they've got their first book in the system and wanted to try it out. If they just clicked on that link to the advertising without having read anything about it, it's pretty easy to figure out. Now, there's some details about strategy that we're going to talk about, but basically you click on the link. The next thing you do is you select from all of the books that you have published the one you want to advertise on. You then pick, it generates an ad name. I like to use my own naming convention, and I could talk for 10 minutes about why that's important, but if your listeners will just trust me.
You don't want to forget where your ad is.
Well, it's a couple things. The one they generate doesn't necessarily give you a ton of information. It's easy if you're not paying attention to end up with 2 ads with the same name, which doesn't impact them running. They'll run just fine. But if the day comes that you're doing well at it and you want to do deeper analysis, that can cause problems if you're trying to sort things in Excel. There's just a lot of reasons to have a good naming convention. And so really quickly, what I do for all of my ads is the very first thing is what I call my book short, meaning for Henry Wood Detective Agency, I start every ad HWDA. For Killing Hemingway, KH. So it's just the first letters of the book. Then the next thing I put is 3-letter month. So now it's February, it'd be FEB. Then I put the year, 2019, and then I put a letter or number next to it. If I'm running an ad for Henry Wood Detective Agency today, and I've not run any ads previously in February, I would call that ad A. And then if I ran a second ad using a new list, and we'll talk about the list in a moment, the keyword list, I would call that ad B, and so forth. And so if the listeners out there write those down and use those naming conventions, it'll be very easy when you're looking at your ads on the dashboard, because when you have 3 or 4, you kind of remember what they all are. When you've got 800 ads and you're trying to analyze historical data and you've been doing it for 6 months, you're going to be pleased that you started out of the gate with a naming convention. And so anyway, once you've done that, then you just kind of scroll down the page and there's things you fill out. How much do you want to bid? We talk about that. Your daily budget. The daily budget is simply amount that you're allowing Amazon to spend in a day. Now, unless you grotesquely overbid, it's pretty rare that you spend that budget. So if you say $20 a day, I'll be surprised if on your first ad you spend $20 in the first month. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
I was just going to say, so like a quick overview of everything that you've pretty much said. The Amazon ads really are key, because rather than just, you blasting your book on Facebook, you can actually tie it to other people's books who are also advertising. So not only, it's going to, it amplifies.
Well, the other person,
or visibility.
The other person doesn't need to be advertising. So as an example,
true.
Like you could pick J.K. Rowling. Now it would be an expensive ad to try to get, in the first 50 pages probably. But I doubt J.K. Rowling is running any ads. She's doing fine just on word of mouth. But the point is the ads will still run under J.K. Rowling just fine. So, it takes work to build up the keyword list. But for the people that are new, there's an option. Once you've gotten in there and you've named your ad and you've said how much per day you want to spend, you can pick either a manual keyword entry or an automatic. If you click automatic, and for first-time users, it's probably best to do automatic for your first ad. It will then pick 50, 60 keywords. So for my mystery, it would pick generic things like mystery, thriller, detective, noir, things of that nature. And so you don't have to do any thinking. You just do that, and then it'll recommend a bid, which I don't believe in necessarily listening to the recommendation. That's sort of another issue, and we can get to that in a bit. But it's easy. And you do that, and then you write your ad copy, which is limited to 150 characters, and hit submit. And so it's an incredibly easy process if you've never done it before. So don't let the unknown be a deterrent from trying Amazon ads.
So those keywords that you're thinking of, you're trying to think of what would people type into Amazon to get to a book like mine. So
yes, that is one thing. So because Henry Wood Detective Agency is a mystery, if people type in mystery or they type in detective, then there are ads that run in organic search. And so maybe I should go back and share the screen again, because I don't want this to get confusing. It's not terribly hard, but okay, so we're back here. Now, organic search is when I type in I think my keyboard is dying. But you know what? I'm prepared. I have a backup keyboard. Yes. I think I have this lovely Logitech keyboard that I adore. For the last 3 days, periodically, it just conks out on me, and I'm not able to type. But I am nothing if not prepared. So I now have my backup ready, and we'll type.
Day without on keystroke without some kind of technical difficulty.
Exactly. So, okay, so I just typed detective, and you'll notice it gave me organic search. But look at this. Okay, this is sponsored by Unputdownable Books. This is one type of ad. Here is the main. This is what I wanted to show is the sponsored product ads. These people chose the word detective, and each one of these just got an impression, which an impression is simply, did the ad show on a screen? And in just a moment, I want to clear up one myth that people have that causes stress, and we don't want your listeners to have stress. But if we scroll down and then we go to, here's another ad, and there's another one. So they are just sort of mixed in with the organic search. Now, here is interesting. There's Joy Ellis, which we saw. This is not an ad. If we click on this, we could have clicked on it, or I think we did click on it, as a sponsored ad, and Joy had to pay. This time, Joy did not have to pay. This is an organic click, and so that's a good thing. But what I wanted to talk about here was Now that I scrolled down to here, so the moment I got down to here, each one of these books in the Amazon system will be credited with an impression because the book showed up on the screen. What was not credited with an impression are the 38 other pages of books that are virtually out to the right there. They're not impressions until I click here.
And look at it.
Now it just loaded them. So now they're impressions. So if you hear somebody say, "Oh, I bid low, but I'm way out on, let's go out here a ways. I'm on page 9 or on page 20, and so I'm worried that my click-through rate is going to be horrible because nobody goes out there." Well, these aren't impressions until they're impressions, and so that's not something to worry about at all. And so I just wanted to cover that because that's, again, for new people, it's a pretty common thing that people worry about that is not actually worth worrying about. And so I don't know how to share the screen now. I
got locked on you.
Well, okay. I guess I hadn't been sharing it then. I'm sorry. I thought.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
I apologize, but anyway, I think folks get the point there.
So you're placing a bid on impressions. Can you explain the bidding system again, just real quick?
Yeah, the bidding system is, as example, I just used where I type in detective. The people on page 1, they may have bid 60 cents for that. Now, you generally don't pay what you bid unless you make a horrible bidding blunder, which would be, and this, everybody does it once. Let's say you're deciding you want to bid 20 cents because you're new, you're going to start low and work your way up to find the sweet spot in your genre, which is what I recommend for everyone. You say you're going to bid 20 cents, you put in the 20, but you leave off that little decimal. And what you've actually bid is $20.
Oh, no.
Which is more than 20 cents. And that, again, is a bad thing. Most people realize it, after one click. Now, you probably don't end up paying $20 because you will never pay more than the top bid. But if your bid is $20, you have the top bid, and you probably end up, it's like, I had one click for $1.80. What's going on? Well, you didn't bid 20 cents, you bid $20. And so it's a mistake that hopefully your readers will pay attention because decimal places are important. You have to put in 0.20 or you'll be grotesquely overbidding. And so I kind of forgot my point. What was my point there? I wasn't listening. Sometimes when I talk, I don't listen. I got off on that tangent. What was the question? Oh, we're talking about how the bidding works. Yes.
Yeah,
so if you bid 20 cents and there's a bunch of people that have bid 30 or 40 cents, then their books will show up and get impressions before your books. But again, they'll be somewhere along that carousel of ads. So the idea being you want to start out low, maybe 20-cent bid, and then let it run for a week. And maybe it doesn't get any impressions. So then you kill that ad and you write a new ad. And people will ask, well, can I use the copy button? That will save me time. No, don't. That's a whole nother show. But you're new to this. You're new to copywriting. Always write them from scratch. You'll get better at this much more quickly. The copy button will probably lead to your children hating you. You'll get gout and gain 30 pounds. So don't do it. It's just so evil. But anyway, I digress. The point is you do the bid, and then when the click comes in, you don't necessarily pay what the bid is. You pay usually 50, 60% of that because it's always going down to the next lowest bid. So you might have a 60-cent bid. Again, I'm not recommending that, but you bid 60 and you get a bunch of clicks at 32. That just means that there were no other people that had bid that high. And so it always goes down to the next lowest one.
Oh, that's very fair of Amazon. Thank you.
Yes.
And in your book, Mastering Amazon Ads,
Yay.
this one you actually recommend when you had published it, which was a little bit ago.
July 15th of 2017. And
so at that point, you were suggesting to bid 10 to 11 cents. Are you suggesting in today's
market, you might as well start it around? Well, I don't want to say that, because there are narrow niches where one guy I know who writes sports-related books, nobody's competing against him. So he's still getting bids at really, he's bidding those numbers and getting clicks just fine. But for most genres now, you probably need to start out at 20 cents. And now if you do start out at 20 cents, because maybe you're new, like you said, a lot of people here are new, and you don't know how popular your genre is. Maybe you're writing a space dinosaur thriller of some sort, which is your own genre. And you start at 20 cents and you get a ton of impressions. And when I say a ton, I mean 200,000-300,000 over the span of 4 or 5 days. That's great. But then you want to kind of go the other direction. You say, okay, the ad has done great. And most ads will have a period if you've got the bid in sort of the sweet spot, or maybe a little higher, where it'll be hundreds of thousands of impressions in a span of 5 or 6 days. And then it will drop off down to 1,000 impressions a day. And all the new people panic. Why did my ad die? Everyone goes into it with the expectation they'll run an ad and it will run for 3 months. If it runs for 3 months and you're getting 10, 20, 30,000 impressions a day, you have probably overbid. And we were talking before the show. I have a story, and this is maybe the most important thing I talk about today, because like you pointed out, when I wrote the book, 15 cents was a great starting point. But I've sold a lot of copies of the book. And so it's kind of my fault. There's a lot more people doing Amazon ads. That has driven the bids up, and that happens. But what also happens is authors, because we're mostly interested in writing, we don't want to spend a ton of time doing data analysis. I do, but it's something that I love. Most authors, they will start out at, say, 20 cents. They'll go to 22, 24. Then they'll go to 60. And they'll just say, screw it, I go to 60. And they'll get a ton of impressions. And they'll get a ton of clicks. And maybe they have a 10-book series so that their read-through is great, so they can bid anything and it's going to be profitable. A woman about a year ago, maybe a little longer, she was doing maybe 20, 30,000 a month in sales on, I think, 12,000 a month in Amazon ad spend. So great ROI. I mean, like 25,000, 24,000 would be, 100% ROI. Well, I said to her, so how much testing do you do? And in my book, I use the word testing all the time. She said, no, I found what works for me, and so I just stick with it. And I said, well, you probably could get similar results with lower bid. And she didn't believe me at first, but I talked her into trying. So she started testing. A month later, we had reduced her cost per click by 20 cents per click. Now, this is a person spending $12,000 a month. She still spent $12,000 a month. She was just getting 40% more clicks for the same $12,000.
Wow.
And she made an extra like $8,000, $9,000 from that same exact spend. And I would wager that out of every 100 authors out there that are on page 1 or 2, none of them are testing. They're all just, they got to their bid, 60 cents, and they're just letting it ride. And the thing is, we're past Christmas. So that's another thing that happens is in November and December, because traditional publishers start spending money on ads, they don't for most of the year, but they drive up the rates. And so authors who make a lot of money just don't spend time testing it. And so that's what I'm encouraging all of you listeners to do is, even when you get to a sweet spot, whatever that is, whether it's 16 cents, 24 cents, higher, don't just run it at that bid for the rest of your life, because throughout the year it changes. Summer it's slower, but the people that are constantly testing and saying, okay, this ad worked great at this rate, but now it died, and they all die. Now with the next ad, I'm going to try some different copy and I'm going to bid 2 cents lower. And sure enough, that ad will have the same volume of impressions. And so you're always trying to find, because 2 cents doesn't sound like a lot, but if you do that over 5 or 10 tests, and you've now knocked 15 cents a click off your bid, that makes a big deal. And so I hope, does that make sense? I'm trying, I get excited about this stuff, and I throw a lot out there. And I know for new people, it's a lot to absorb, but
I mean, if you make $1,000 a month on your books and you're spending $500 on your ads, and with the click ratios, each of the clicks you have 50 cents.
Yep.
If you can get it to where you're testing and you get that down to 30 cents, well, now you could do more ads for the same $500, but instead of $1,000, you could potentially be making $1,500, $2,000.
That's exactly right. Yes.
For the exact same amount of money, you actually end up making more in the end.
Yeah. Which brings me to another important point. And that's, I am going to share the screen again, because this is going to sound a little bit like an ad, and it is kind of, but this book here, the reason this is important is that most authors don't really calculate their conversion rate. And conversion rate, this is a hugely important thing to understand, is that you're paying per click. And so if your book requires 30 clicks to get a conversion, and I want to define conversion, because most authors, probably better than 50%, I don't know the exact percentage, but greater than half are exclusive to Amazon. For the new folks out there, that simply means that you're selling your books on Amazon. You've agreed not to sell them on Barnes & Noble, Kobo, Publish Drive, which is a new kid on the block. They're kind of cool. And Apple iBooks. You're exclusive to Amazon. The benefit of that is that people who subscribe to Kindle Unlimited, they don't have to pay for your book. But you, the author, get usually around 1/2 of 1 cent per page that is read. So the benefit there, and I'm not taking a stand on whether you should be wide or exclusive. I have been wide twice. I've been exclusive 3 times. I could do an entire show on the benefits of each one. But from a consumer standpoint, they are paying their $10 a month, and every book that's in KU is basically free. So if you're in KU, and Henry Wood Detective Agency, which I use as an example, is in KU, I sell it for $4.99, but it's perma-free to all the KU subscribers. If you think about that in terms of people clicking on ads, there's millions and millions of people that are KU subscribers. When they click on an ad, if it's in KU, they're not deciding, should I spend $4.99 on the book? They're deciding, should I spend my time reading this book from an author I don't know? And that's where the copywriting becomes important, because most people write a synopsis of their book, and those, for an author in Amazon exclusive and selling at, I call it full price, $4.99, they will convert at between 1 in 30 and 1 in 35, meaning it takes up to 35 clicks to get one person to choose either to buy your book or to download it from KU. 35 clicks. Now, if you're paying 20 cents a click, you're spending $7 to get a conversion. If you've only got 2 books in your series, it's going to be hard to make a profit. Now, conversely, the descriptions that I've helped people write and my own book description, they converted between 1 in 8 and 1 in 10. And you don't need a background in mathematics to know that if you're paying 20 cents a click, you'd rather pay for 10 of them to get a sale or download than 35 of them. And that's the most important thing about being successful at Amazon ads, is the quality of the copywriting on your description. And I know this is the Amazon ads show that we're doing, but we can talk about Amazon ads all day long. And if your descriptions don't convert well, then you're spending 3 times the amount of money you need to to get a new reader, and that's hugely important.
Well, yeah, I'd love to get you back on the show for a special show just on Amazon description.
Absolutely.
We've got someone lined up, but I think we need to have like a special.
We can absolutely do that. And I talk about the importance of copywriting I hint at it in Mastering Amazon Ads. And so a lot of people, will run with it from just that. But some wanted a bigger book, so that's why I wrote the other one. Just know that if you're testing the waters on Amazon Ads and you don't feel, and you're taking a lot of clicks to get those sales and KU downloads, that's probably where you need to look first. And one other thing, most people just look at their sales. Currently, in the current environment, I'm going to ask a quiz question for both you ladies. If a typical book that is in KU gets 100 new readers, on average right now in the current environment, how many of those readers bought the book, paid sales, versus how many were KU downloads? What do you think the ratio is? And I want you both to answer the trivia question.
I have no idea.
Wait, so they're
I don't know how to answer that.
Readers. They're KU readers, so how many of them would do awesome?
No, I'm not saying they're all KU readers. I'm saying that a magic ball has told you that next month you're going to get 100 new readers from your ads. Okay. How many of those readers paid for the book, bought it at say $4.99, and how many of the 100 downloaded the book through KU?
Would you need to watch the little, because they have a paid read option?
Well, yeah. I mean, I can talk through how you do the math, but what I want to understand is your perception of the current state of Amazon book sales versus KU downloads, because that is not widely understood. And
I guess 20% bought your book and 80% just read it on KU or so.
Well, your guess is close. Right now, it's about 65 to 70% download on KU, and 30 to 35% will buy it. The reason that's important is that a year ago, it was 50%. Okay? 2 years ago, it was 70% bought the book and 30% downloaded in KU. What that means, though, is if you're a new person and you're trying to analyze your ads and you've had 100 clicks, which, again, assuming your description is like most people's description, that 100 clicks means you've probably gotten 3 conversions. That's 3 new readers. But your KDP report says 0 sales. Don't assume that you didn't get any readers. You may have gotten 3 KU readers, but you won't know unless you watch your page reads. And page reads take a while for time to come in. And that's hugely important, because the number of people out there who analyze their data but only look at sales is frightening to me, because right now, sales are the least important of the 2 metrics. It's the KU page reads that you need to be focusing on, because that makes up 70% of your new readership. So when you're trying to figure out if an ad is working, if you only look at the tiny portion, you're going to be making erroneous decisions about the effectiveness of the ad. And
so when you first put out an ad and you're accumulating the clicks, you're getting the impressions, what would be your suggested time frame of looking at that data that it's actually coming through and giving you what you want? A lot of people, they'll refresh, every minute it first goes out. But
that is a fantastic question. And the answer is to really understand how well your book description is converting. And it doesn't have to be from a single ad. You probably need 1,000 clicks. And depending on the length of the book, let's say it's 300 pages. And for new people out there, the page length of your print book is usually 20 to 30% less than what you get credit for in Kindle Unlimited. So a 230% or 230 page print book is probably 300 pages, 310 in KU. So that's a 50 to 60,000 word novel. So a typical novel, 50 to 60,000 words, maybe 300 pages, you should also, not just 1,000 clicks, you should also give it a month because people read at different speeds. So some people will read 5 books a week. If one of those people download your book today, they'll be done with it tonight or tomorrow. Some people read 3 books a year, so they might finish it in a month or maybe longer. If you give it 30 days, and then you look at the total number of page reads you get over that time and divide it by that KENPC number, the 300 that I just said, and you can look that up on your dashboard, then you will know how many new readers you had, a pretty good estimate. You'll know the least number of possible readers you'll have had. If the book is longer, if it's an epic fantasy and it's 100,000 words and it's maybe 600 KENPC, you probably need to give it longer. You may need to give it 45, 50 days. And so keep that in mind, that you need to watch it for a while to be able to truly understand the results. And too many people try to analyze on 30 clicks, and you can't tell anything from 30 clicks. I once had an ad. This was before I learned copywriting. The book converted at 1 in 30. Now, I hadn't done copywriting. I didn't know that 1 in 30 wasn't as good as it gets. I just am a data guy, and I keep all my numbers, and I knew that that book converted at 1 in 30. I ran an ad once that had 5 clicks, and it had 5 sales. Now, the math odds, I live in Las Vegas. I live on the Las Vegas Strip. And the odds of a 30-to-1 horse winning 5 times in a row, 30-to-1 against, are 2.5 million to 1 against.
Whoa.
So I will need to run another 2.5 million ads before mathematically I even have a chance of going 5 for 5 again. That's important to understand, because the opposite is true. You may have an ad that converts at 1 in 10. Maybe you bought my book on copywriting and you're good at it, and your description converts at 1 in 10. But that doesn't mean mathematically you can't go 0 for 100 clicks, because you can. Now you might then go 3 sales for 110, and when you get out to 1,000, you're up to 100 conversions and you're 1 in 10. But there will come a point where you do go 0 for 100. That just happens. And so anyone analyzing something after 30 clicks, it's variance. It's just the universe, you having a bad run of luck. There's nothing you can tell from that. And so you shouldn't panic and kill an ad when it's 0 for 30. Unless you're running lock screen ads, which just seem to convert horribly. So hold off on the lock screen ads for now. That's the message for those. But does that make sense? Why you need to wait a bit longer?
It does, definitely.
Good.
Definitely.
Yeah. And then tweaking your copy just a little bit can really weigh the odds in your favor and making sure you actually convert clicks.
It absolutely can. It is.
So
I mean, it's huge. And I think most people out there who change their copy and write proper hooks, and I know that's going to be a different show, but you will see an improvement instantly. I mean, it is crazy how powerful it is.
And then just one real quick question. What's
Sure.
the one thing a hook should do or should be to actually convert those clicks?
Yeah. I mean, I can show again a not to just, okay, let's go back to Henry Wood, and because this I love this description. This is my 3rd description for this book. So the first one converted at 1 in 30. Then I learned a little bit about copywriting. I wrote another one and it converted at 1 in 10. The description here converts at 1 in 8. And so the point about that is, even if somebody out there takes to heart my talk about the importance of copywriting, and maybe they don't even read my book. Brian Cohen has an excellent book, How to Write a Sizzling Synopsis. Maybe they've read that, but they just haven't put it into play. They hear this and they decide, okay, I'm going to do it. Even if they improve from 1 in 30 to 1 in 10, as you get better at copywriting, you're going to need to redo it in 6 months because you'll get better at it. And I did get better at it. And here are the hooks. There's 2 things I want you to notice. And did I share the screen? Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Notice the length of the hooks. So without even reading the words, they're very short. And the reason for that is that I want a person on the first line to be able to look at the W in new, which is the center character, and without moving their eyes, be able to read the entire thing as if it was one word. Because you have to understand, in the age of social media, our attention spans are so incredibly fractured that we can't be bothered to read massive blocks of text. Mm-hmm. How many people have been on Facebook and somebody writes a post and it's 30 lines long in a single chunk of text? Nobody reads it. I've written posts on my site, on my Facebook page or my Facebook group, and on 20 books to 50K that are 1,500 words. That's a massive Facebook post. But I use proper copywriting, and I've gotten the one that was 1,500 had over 750 likes and over 300 comments. And the comments were mostly related to the very last thing I put in there because I wanted to see if people had made it to the end of reading everything, and they had. And so it was copywriting that got them to the end, which is what you want to do to get the person that you just paid 20 cents to get them to your page. Now you need to get them to the end of the description. And that's what we've got here. Henry knew one thing. Okay, nobody is going to read that first line and quit. They're going to go to the second line, which is the point. And Sugarman talks about this in his book, Ad Week. This is where I got that from. The point of the first line in all advertising is to get the person to read the second line. That's its only job. The second line here, dames were trouble. Well, the cover is done in Art Deco. It's a period piece. Nobody uses the word dames anymore. So that gives the reader a clue about what this book is. Would this client be the exception? Okay. The dames were trouble. Would they be the exception? Those are hooks. That is getting them to this little read more button. And so they do that. And look at the weight. And when I say weight, I mean the text on the page here. The longest paragraph is 2 lines. There's nothing intimidating here. There's nothing that says, oh, you're going to burden me with a 5-line paragraph. I'm done. So it continues. She walked in, sat down, crossed her legs, and asked for a light. Boy, could she cross a leg. Before the woman told him why she needed a detective, Henry wondered if she was playing him. It was something about her. The red lips and smoldering eyes were just a little too perfect. She knew how to get away. And the dress, she wore a Dior dress would make an hourglass self-conscious. Was it the Damsel in Distress Act? This was the second one he had seen this week. Something wasn't adding up. 1955 was going to be an interesting year. You'll love this noir mystery with a twist because everyone loves a broken detective trying to do what's right. Get it now. That description gets people to the end of it, and then they buy it or they download it on KU. And it's because of these short hooks that it converts so well. Now, if I go down and pick a random book here, and we're going to go out here where it's somebody that isn't paying very much per click, but I want to pick a random book, this one right here, and we're going to look at the opening. Okay, look how much. Look at the volume of words that he's asking me to read on page 1. Too many words. And if you look at the I in the middle of the first line, it's massive. I don't even want to click read more, but this is a massive description. My apologies to Blair. I hope she's not watching, but this will not convert as well as a description with proper copywriting, and that's that's.
So for our audio listeners, the biggest difference between what he's showing us in the video is each one of those little sentences that he was saying was on its own line. It had like a space between it. It was just like a really easy read through. And then what he's showing us now is more like you would see in a book. They are very 3 to 4 or 5 lines of paragraphs, and there's 3 of those, which visually is just like, do I really want to read all that?
That's exactly right.
Versus his, where there's all this nice, lovely space going through, and you're like, there's 3 to 5 words per sentence. I could maybe
exactly.
There.
That's the thing. It's not prose. We want to be great at writing our prose. For copywriting, we want it to be short. And the other point about that description I just read you folks, at no point did I mention anything about the book.
Yeah. This is true. This is very true. I mean,
people who just write a synopsis and then you get to the end and you're like, well, that was 500 words. I know what happens, or I can guess. Good enough. Thanks for saving me the $5. Don't tell them what's happening in the book. Hint at what might happen. Make them buy it or download it to find out if they were right. And you know what? 98% of your readers tell too much and they give a synopsis of the book. And it's natural. And it's so hard when you're an author not to tell everybody all the cool things about this thing that you have painstakingly created. But don't do it in your description. It will make it so it doesn't convert. It'll make your advertising more expensive. And it'll just be harder for you to make a living as an author if that's your goal.
So real quick, and then we can jump back into all of this. We have a sponsor tonight. I just want to do this quick sponsor read. This episode of The Writer's Journey is brought to you by Titanborn, Children of Titan, by Rhett C. Bruno. Offworlders are only worth the price on their heads. After 3 decades as a Pervenio Corporation Collector, chasing wanted offworlders and extinguishing protests throughout the solar system, Malcolm Graves doesn't bother asking questions. So long as the pay is right, he's the man for the job. But his latest assignment doesn't afford him that luxury. A high-profile bombing on Earth has the men who signed Malcolm's paychecks clamoring for answers. They force him to team up with a strange, augmented partner who's more interested in statistics than instinct, and ship them off to Titan to hunt down a suspected group of extremists. Titanborn rebels who will go to any length to free their home from the tyranny of Earth's corporations. Heading into hostile territory, Malcolm will have to use everything he's learned to stay alive. But he soon realizes the situation on the ground is much more complex than he anticipated, and much more personal. Check out the thrilling first book in a gritty and innovative science fiction series perfect for fans of The Expanse and Blade Runner. You can also grab it on Audible, performed by the award-winning R.C. Bray, narrator of The Martian. This book is currently 99 cents on Kindle, but if you start an Audible membership today, you can get it free. Boom, boom, boom.
Okay, first off, I may go get it on Audible, but here's an interesting point. The hook, and the reason I will likely go get that book on Audible, it was not because of the advertising copy you read, which sounded like it was the book description from Amazon.
It was.
Which again was my apologies to the author, but it was a war crime. That was just too long. The hook, the whole hook in there, and the reason I'm actually going to go buy this book with an Audible credit is narrated by R.C. Bray. That's your hook. He's a superstar. So he put the best part. I mean, if Julia Roberts is starring in a movie, they don't mention that in the end. You know, she's out front. Yeah. And guess what? Julia Roberts, or well, I don't know who. I'm old, but the point is, the superstar goes at the top of the billing, and so that copy would have been better by. Do you like an Audible book? This one has R.C. Bray narrating it. You'll love the way he tells this story, and be hooked in the first book of and then the title. So again, copywriting, it impacts everything that you do. And I mean, if nothing else, your sponsor there is going to get one sale, because I am not joking. I am going to. What was the title of that again? Can you give me that title?
Titanborn by R.C. Bruno.
Titanborn. Okay, because I am literally going to do that after this is done. So my apologies for my disparaging remarks about your ad copy and your description copy, but the fact that you got R.C. Bray, that's all I need. He's an amazing narrator, and that to me says other things. It says this author is very serious about his business if he could afford R.C. Bray. So that's all I needed to know. Put that at the top of your ad copy, and you're going to get a lot more Audible sales.
Yeah, and one other thing RC is so good at is having the different characters and voices. And
I know.
So again, you know that this book is going to have really strong characters, and
it's going to be amazing.
It's going to be fun.
So for ad copy, then, you know, if you can get, especially if you're jumping into audio, that could definitely be a hook to get people to click on your book.
100%. 100%. And that's again why, you know, I know this is a show about Amazon ads, but they're interlinked. If you don't use proper copywriting in your description, if you don't use proper copywriting in your newsletters, the newsletters, as we do those, every newsletter we send out has the potential to make a fan more of a fan, or make them feel like, oh, these newsletters are a drag. If you use proper copywriting and do something similar to what I used as an example, people will read them more often. You'll get better open rates. You'll get better click-through rates, which helps your book sell more. When you have a new launch, you'll have better launches. You'll have better rankings. If you have better rankings, you will get more organic traffic. The organic traffic will convert better, which helps the rankings. And so all of it is interconnected. And even things like I mentioned, if you're writing a post on Facebook and it can just be announcing that you've got a new puppy, use proper copywriting because it'll make you a better copywriter. I started doing that about 9 months ago with 20 books to 50K. About once every week or two, I will get on and write a post sort of blogging about something I'm passionate about.
Not gonna lie, I love to read those. I will travel those things all the way down.
And there you go. And they're the same way for the audio listeners. They're very lightweight. They're very short, punchy things. I use open loops, and I keep people engaged all the way to the end. And I get hundreds and hundreds of likes and loves and comments. And even in the comments, though, if somebody makes a comment about the post, I think that's really interesting. What do you think about this? I might write another 500-word response, again, using proper copywriting. 9 months ago, when I decided I was going to use copywriting for everything, whether it's direct messages on Facebook, whether it's an email to my mom, it was that decision that has made me a much better copywriter. And I'm in the process of rewriting all my descriptions now. I just did the first one, so this is like round 4 of rewriting my descriptions because I keep getting better. And so I didn't mean to hijack the show into copywriting, but if the new folks here want to do well at ads, then that's something that they need to think about as well.
Yeah, it all goes together. It sounds like making ads is just creating a probability, like raising your
well put.
Of someone to look at your book in the first place, but that doesn't get them to click buy. What gets them to click buy is, you know, that really stellar cover also, but then having a really great description with a hook that's compelling. And
a call to action at the end. And there's some people, I hate calls to action. I know, but you know what? Since the 50s, Madison Avenue has proven that calls to action work. And anybody listening to this was probably born in an age where every ad has a call to action. And we don't even see them. They're just part of our programming. And so put it in there. Yeah, buy it now. And you know what? On some level, it has impact. And so, do that. And I think you'll be better off. But again, actually, you did ask a question. Well, you were about to. I think I probably interrupted you. I'm sorry. About the copy for the ads. And this is something that is important to new folks too. The reason I don't like you using the copy button, and the reason I want you to constantly be trying to write new copy for your ads is for the practice. But also, it's amazing how, I've written thousands of ads for myself. I had a client, thousands of ads for him. I've only used the copy button 18 times. And it was because I was testing if using the copy button had any positive or negative effects. I didn't learn anything, but the only reason I was using it was to do research. And I write them from scratch. But here's an important point. And I want everybody to pay attention. If you have stopped listening and are scrolling through Facebook, come back to the show, because You shouldn't stress out about the copy for your Amazon ad. People will get on Facebook and they will crowdsource their ad copy. There is very little difference from one ad to the next. And in the thousands and thousands of ads I've written, I've had one where the ad copy mattered. Ad copy, cover art, that gets them to click. But it has nothing to do with the conversions. It doesn't help you get a sale. That's what your description's for. Once they've read your description, the human memory isn't good enough to remember what the ad copy was. But one time, I wrote an ad, and this was in a point where I was getting 300% return on investment. And this ad for 6 weeks, and I kept rerunning it. Every time it would die off, I'd just run another. It had between 700 and 900% return on investment. And for that 6-week period, and this is a book that has a 4.3 average on its reviews, for that 6-week period, it got maybe 20, 25 reviews. 24 of the 25 were 5-star because I wrote copy that for that time got me the perfect reader for my snarky satire. And the copy was, and this was the 20th ad I had written that day. I was just messing around, and I like to try things, and I wrote it because it made me laugh and then hit submit. The copy was more snark than a snarkopotamus in Snarktown on a snarking spree.
Wow.
It didn't mean anything. It was nonsensical, but it was 3 a.m. I was tired. I wanted to get the ads done. And then I just wrote that. I said, I wrote the first word, more snark. And then I wrote a snarkopotamus, and I started giggling. And then I wrote Snarktown, and I was just laughing to myself. And I was like, hell yes, I'm submitting that. Oh my God, it made me so much money. But I've tried to capture that lightning in a bottle since then. A delicious cup of snarky soup. It only worked the once. So if you're listening, if you stop paying attention to Facebook for just a moment, you should always try to be doing your best with the ads. Write the best copy you can. But if you're spending more than 90 seconds on it, you have spent too much time stressing. Get the ad, submit it. Write a new ad, submit it. Write another one. They fail, they succeed. Yeah.
On your description.
Spend the time on your description. And there's something freeing about, like, even I used to set the little stopwatch on my phone, and I wouldn't allow myself more than 90 seconds. And it's freeing. You get them done, you get them in, and one day you may be punch drunk enough from fatigue and lack of sleep that you write a snarkopotamus ad, and it just happens to ring with your reader. So again, always try to find the snarkopotamus, but don't worry if you can't. And use the word snarkopotamus every chance you get in conversation because it's fun.
Yeah, sometimes it's a matter of like releasing inhibitions and kind of just trying whatever strikes your fancy.
Exactly.
And it sounds like you're running multiple ads at the same time. I mean, I know we kind of touched on this earlier in the show, but we had a question from the audience that asked, like,
oh, sure.
The ads should you run at a time, and how long?
That's probably the most common question I get, and it is pretty well known, and this is not 100% of the time, but most of the time, if you've got a list, and just for the sake of the story, let's say you have 100 keywords. You have gone out and you looked at the top 100 authors in your genre, guinea pig science fiction. I love guinea pigs. And so you write guinea pig thrillers, which I hope there are people out there writing guinea pig thrillers. I would buy them. And so you look at the top 100 in guinea pig thrillers, and you copy down all those author names. And that becomes your keyword list because author names are good for keywords. And you have 100 of them, and you run an ad, you put them in, you write your copy, and you're hoping to get clicks on people interested in guinea pig thrillers. If you run a second ad with that same list, only one of them will run so that they fight against each other. So you can't have two with the same list. But you could have 1,000 keywords and run 10 ads with 1,000 unique, with 100 on each list. The most keywords that you're able to put in a manual ad is 1,000. So as an example, for Henrywood Detective Agency, I have just like 4,997 keywords. It is authors, it's author books, it's things from the top 100 list, it's those generic ones like mystery, thriller, detective, noir, dime store, gumshoe, police procedural. It's not a police procedural, but you know what? I use it. And so I can run 5 ads, a batch of 5, because they won't be competing with each other. And this comes back to why you want to keep an eye on the amount of impressions you're getting, because another thing that is not widely known, but the first time you run an ad, if you've got a bid that happens to be near that sweet zone, you're going to get a lot of impressions. It'll be amazing. When that dies off, the next ad you run won't be as good. There's something about first-time ads, if you happen to be in the ballpark with the bid, that do exceedingly well, and it may be the best ad you ever have. I mean, you might get like 1 million impressions, and the rest of them get 500,000 or something like that. So don't take that to heart. Don't worry about it. But what you do want to do is you want to watch over time how quickly you get these impressions. If you get 300,000 impressions in 7 days, and then from days 8 through 14, you get 20,000 impressions, well, that ad has died. It's not going to ever give you a giant bulk of impressions. And so do you want to hang on to the ad and get 20,000 next week, or kill the ad, run a new one, and maybe get 200,000 to 300,000 impressions? So it's about keeping an eye on the length of time that your ads do really well and making decisions to replace them. So you might have 5,000 keywords and you can run a batch of five ads, but you don't want to think that, okay, I'll run 5 more ads in 3 months, because if you're getting a ton of impressions, like 50,000 a day per ad for 3 months, you may have overbid. And that goes back to the story about the woman who then started running ads at less and was still getting the same amount of impressions, and she improved her profitability. So with the impressions, so you're saying, like, just say like 1,000 impressions, and those are broken up per keyword, because like each keyword gets its own like impression number. Some keyword might get 20, others 85. A lot of them will be 0. So for the ones that are lower or 0, do you still keep those in the list? Yeah. Or do you delete them? Yeah. I mean, we're not paying for impressions. And I don't curate my list at all. Now, there are some people out there that swear by it. They will tell you that, oh, I go through, and if I get a keyword with 30 clicks and no sales, I kill it. Okay, here's the problem. We discussed variance earlier, that even a great description that converts at 1 in 10 can certainly go for 30, but the AMS report that tells you if there's a sale from the click does not give any data with regards to the KU downloads. We don't get any page read data. So that keyword that author just killed may have gotten 5 KU readers, and they will never know. So they may have the potential is they probably just killed off a keyword that was fantastic. And I would say I love analysis, but unless you're getting 1,000 clicks on a keyword, I don't know how you can possibly, on a single individual keyword, have enough clicks to make a reasonable decision on it. And most of your ads will have 10 clicks, 5 clicks, 20 clicks on a single keyword. And over all of the keywords, there'll be like 80 of them that have 1 click. And you'll get up to 60, 80, 100 clicks on that ad before it dies, and then you'll move on to the next ad. But unless you're gathering data for your keywords over time, you can certainly amass several thousand clicks on an individual keyword over 100 ads over a year and a half. If you kept your data and did that, you would be able to do amazing analysis. Or better yet, if you do that, and for a year and a half, you keep data on the keywords, which means you're going to have to download them when the ad is done and use Excel. But if anyone does that, I'll do the analysis. send me a message on Facebook, and I'll analyze that thing for 10 hours. And I will get insights that nobody has in the industry. I just am not willing to do it myself because it's a huge time commitment, and there's no guarantee we'll learn anything. But if you do, hey, send me a message. I'll analyze your data. I'm good at analysis.
Now, can you show us one of your Excel spreadsheets?
What's that?
Can you show us one of your Excel spreadsheets?
Oh, sure. Let me see. Okay. Okay. Well, this isn't for analyzing data, but I kind of like it. It's what I created for just tracking my daily word count. So I just put in the word counts, and then it gives me a daily report. It tells me averages. But Excel is amazing in that it. Oh wait, am I sharing the screen? Nope. I don't know if I. Oh well, then you can't see my pretty. So let me share it, and then hold on here. Let me go back, and this is my little pretty thing for tracking my daily word count. I have a daily word thing where I put in each session that I write. Sometimes I time the sessions, and I put in, like, if I do a 15-minute sprint.
Wow,
that's good. And then I have at the top, I have, oh, well, what have I done? I've split the screen somehow. I didn't mean to do that. But at the top, I have each one of these columns is a different book. Let's go there. Okay, there we go. It's a different book. And so if I, like, Mastering Amazon Descriptions, I finished that, and some of the word counts are in here. And then I have a daily that tells me what my individual day was. My goal is always 2,000, and in every day but one, I passed the goal. My average is 2,573 per year. That's 939,000. At 60,000 per book, that's 15.6 books. And my best day is 3,966. And so I intend to write a book called Mastering Excel for Authors, in which I tell people how to do these crazy formulas and build things like this, because they truly are. I mean, Excel is an amazing tool for running your business. And so let me go in here and grab one of my Excel things, because this will show people sort of the potential of what can be done with Excel and why it's great to learn. Unfortunately, they're all conflicted copies. I'm not going to be able to open them up. Tell you what, ask me another question.
Yeah, James has two questions for you.
Okay.
He asks, how much per book per day does Brian think he writes?
Per book, how much do I write? I'm writing 2,593 words per day.
And then, is it common for his days to be split up between different projects?
It is 100% common, yes. In fact, I typically have 3 to 5 books. Now, I started this year a new fantasy series because I always wanted to write epic fantasy. It's something I've wanted to do. And honestly, I make enough money as an author that it can fail miserably and I don't care. But also, I want to research rapid release. And so I intend to write 10 books in the series from January 1 through July 31st. And then sometime in May, I'm going to start rapid releasing, and I'm going to, do the copywriting. I'm going to spend $2,000 a month on building a list. I'm going to, have the proper back matter. I'll have newsletter swaps. I'm going to do all of the things that that some people do, some of the things, but I'm going to do them all and see how far I can push rapid release and then gather data on it. And, maybe in a year and a half, I'll write Mastering Rapid Release. I've got a romance author friend who is doing 40,000 words a day. So she's going to do a rapid release on her books, and I'm going to manage her data so that I can hopefully learn some stuff and have another book out of the deal. So that was a long answer.
Did you say you have a friend who writes 40,000 words a day?
No, 4,000 words a day. She's a romance author.
4,000.
And so that she's taking 14 days to write a book. And so, we want to release once a month. And so hopefully she'll get 2 or 3 books ahead. And her issue is the amount of time her editor has. And so she's going to have to save up a couple books so that she doesn't run into a spot where her editor can't keep up. But That's rapid release is wonderful. If for those that are new out there, because I know you have a lot of new listeners, rapid release is simply the idea that if you release a book every month, you get added benefit from Amazon because you don't fall off the 30-day cliff, and new books tend to add juice and life to the one that came before it and your first book in series. And so if you constantly do that, you will have faster growth. But it's not easy, especially a lot of your authors will have full-time jobs, to produce at a word count that allows you to do that. And because you ideally want to write the book every 3 weeks or something. And so it's hard. But that rapid release is a whole nother show. And obviously I can't be trusted to stay on topic.
Now, Brian, you're still screen sharing.
Yeah, sorry.
Team is lovely. We want to see your handsome mug too.
There we go.
That's great. Right, other questions? John Evans said earlier he's written something like 87,000 words since Bali, which finished around the 8th of January. Then Shannon Humphrey, she asked, does rapid release include novellas and shorts?
I am getting a feedback loop. It is.
Check your microphone.
I think I accidentally was also running the YouTube live stream. I turned that on, and so I was hearing you and you from 10 seconds before. So I didn't hear the question you asked because I was struggling to figure out where this other version of you was coming from. Can you ask the question again, please?
Shannon Humphrey asked, does rapid release include novellas and shorts?
Oh, yes, it would absolutely include those. And I think the people who do well at shorts and novellas always do rapid release because it's harder to make a living with the short stories because you can't really get away with charging as much. A lot of people sell them for 99 cents. At 99 cents, you're making 35 cents versus at $2.99, you're making $2.05, $2.10. At $4.99, which I consider to be full price, you're making $3.50. So at $4.99, you have to sell only 10% of the volume that you do at 99 cents. And so there are challenges with short books to making a profit, but there are people that are very successful at it, and some of them will have 2 or 3 series, and people read them like serials, like we, in the old days, TV used to be in serials where, now we get everything dumped and we can binge watch it. But back in my youth, we had to watch it every week, tune in at the same time because there was no Hulu. It was horrible. My growing up was awful. But I'm sorry. I was channeling Wilford Brimley there for a moment. But the point is, yes, if you're a short story writer, you can absolutely do it. My strategy would be, don't release more often than once a month, and try to have 2 or 3 different storylines that you're telling, or sets of stories or worlds that you're building in. And so maybe you're releasing one on the 1st and one on the 12th and one on the 28th. And because they're shorts, you can do that, and you'll get the benefit of not falling off the cliff, and you can absolutely make money doing that. And I know in the erotic the erotic genre, people don't write 50,000 words erotica. Those are 5,000 words. And so that's something that if you wanted to write just erotica, now again, there's varying levels of romance, and it's a vast, complex genre. There's what was the one you and I were talking about? Historical romance. So there's many things in romance, but there are people who focus on just the erotic stories that are maybe 5,000-6,000 words. And if that is your skill set and that's what you're interested in, and you can write one of those in 1 or 2 days, you can absolutely do shorts. And so yes, don't feel like you have to write novels. But if you're writing novellas at like 35,000 words, a novel's 40 to 50. Then they're so long and you're so close to having the benefit of being a novel then it's probably worthwhile moving it up a little bit. Conversely, and I'm having this problem with the epic fantasy, my intent was to land all of the books in the 50 to 60,000 range, but I'm about finished with the second book, and the first one's coming in at 65,000. The second one is going to be around 72,000 as soon as I finish it. The reason you don't want to necessarily go to 120 or 130,000 is that 130,000 book is going to cost $4.99. So will two 65,000 books, but now you have two opportunities to get $4.99. And so if you write 10 books, 1.3 million words at 130,000, you would have 20 books. And so your rapid release would last 20 months instead of 10 months. And so, again, you don't want to write it short just for the sake of writing it short. If you've already written 100,000 words, you don't want to trim out 50,000 just so it's short. You've already sunk the time into writing it. Publish it as is. That's fine. I'm just saying that if you're one of these new people and you're trying to plan out your writing career, then think in terms of, if you're doing shorts, do shorts. If you're close to novel length, try to hit 50 to 60K. If you feel like you want to write 130,000, that is fine, and you will get a lot of money from KU page reads, but you will be making it more of a challenge. It'll be harder to do rapid release because 100,000, 30,000 words in a month is, I mean, that's a lot. And so, it could be done.
Your editor too.
But these are things that I talk with authors about all the time that they just never consider. And so if you have a lot of new listeners out there, hopefully this will get them on the correct path starting out.
So we did have an audience question in the chat.
Yes.
Let's see, where did it go? So John Evans asked, does Brian have anything to say about the product targeting ads that are now in Amazon, and where you can target a category such as science fiction or a product like Titanborn?
Yeah, see, all the ads changed on January 6th. So there used to be product display interest ads, and then there were product display product ads. I have done testing with product display product ads, and I have had some success. I've had some failures. I haven't found a strategy that I think works consistently enough that I preach it. So I'm very much believe in the data and having statistically significant data before I start giving people advice on what they should do. Now, prior to them changing from product display interest ads to locked screen ads, 90% of my ads were PDI ads. That's where I've spent over $50,000 on PDI ads and probably $5,000 on sponsored product ads, because the thing about product display ads, which don't exist now, I just had great success with them, and because the whole world seemed to not want to do them, it was less expensive. But those are gone. Now we have the lock screen ads, the product display, or the ads that this person just asked about. They're new, and so I don't have an opinion. I suggest that if you're interested in them, test them out, start at a low bid, and think in terms of it may take 3 to 6 months before you get your answer. But if you're bidding low and inching up slowly, you're going to be spending 20 cents one day, 30 cents, 75 cents, and you will get better data, and you'll get a much better understanding of how the ads behave at these varying levels of bids and what works and what doesn't. And in 3 months, you're going to have a skill set that will allow you to do very well with those ads. But if you start off and just bid the same way you were on the keyword ads, you're going to overspend. I just think there's too many unknowns right now to do anything but approach it cautiously.
And then when you figure out how it works, please come on Keystroke Medium's Facebook group.
Exactly.
And John did say the product targeting ones are ones that instead of having keywords, you target categories or genres or specific books. And then he also states they may not have rolled out. He's using AMS Advantage in the UK.
Oh, yeah. And that's, again, it is sort of an expanded version of the product display interest ads, which, again, I had huge success with those. my gut feeling, this is not supported by any data yet, because I will gather data for 3 months before I give an official position on these changes. My gut feeling is the changes on those ads that he asked about are probably going to have some opportunities for authors. I just don't have the data to say conclusively. So Amazon Advantage is a subscription service where you have to pay to then use their platform. It's similar to what we get for free with KDP and with AMS ads. But again, I recommend going slowly. I do think your chances for success are pretty good, assuming your description isn't a war crime and some of these things. But just go into it slowly is my best advice.
All right, we've got a lot of other questions here.
Away.
This question I came up with while reading your book. I was thinking the whole time, it would be great if I could just hire someone to do this. I mean, I love your book. I love how it just kind of like sets out the steps for putting up your ads and following them, analyzing them, putting them up and down, all that wonderful stuff. But if there's someone who's already spent the time learning how to do this and selling other people's books and running their ads, could I hire someone? If I were to, what should I look for to see if they're good at their job? What would be like a red flag to say, oh, don't hire this person? That's
a great question. A red flag would be if they're charging you less than $2,000 a month. And I know that sounds like a staggering number, but I just parted ways with a client that I had for 13 months, and I charged a lot more than that. And he was fine. I did it for him because I saw potential in his books. I saw that when he came to me, he was doing $4,000 a month on $1,200 in Facebook ad spend. Before we ran our first AMS ad, we had him up to $7,000 a month on 0 Facebook spend. So we got rid of all of his advertising and went from $4,000 to $7,000. Do you know what we did? We changed all of his descriptions. That's what we did. Then once we had that done, we started AMS ads. And for 13 months, and I didn't even run the ads. All I did was coach him. I told him what ads to run, and then I analyzed his data. And I was spending a couple hours a day doing the data, and I just didn't feel like there was more benefit I could offer because he understood it. So we parted ways. But I don't think I will do that again. It's just to do it well and have success requires hours and hours of statistical analysis. And most people are not going to have the dedication to do it well enough to make it profitable for you because you have to pay them. So if they're saying they can do it on $50 a month, no, they're just running ads. They're just putting them into the system, spending the 90 seconds and billing you. You can't have success that way. So the red flag would be if they're charging too little. And I would say if you've got a situation where somebody out there listening has 30 books and they've got good cover art and they're not making $10,000, $15,000 a month, then they could probably find someone out there who could get them to $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a month. But it's going to require an enormous amount of commitment on their time. Otherwise, I just don't believe somebody can do it at a price that is affordable so that the author then spends the money and makes a profit. So that's not probably the answer you wanted, but that's kind of how I feel about it, is that it does take a lot of work to get your books to work well. And in Mastering Amazon Ads, Chapter 5, which is like a 3,000 word letter to the readers, is just about setting expectations. And so it is a time commitment. It will take months and months and months. But I got a message today from a woman who she started in my group February 24th, I think, or first week I put it up. And she worked really hard. And it took her a long time to get Amazon ads cracked. And she just sent me a message today. And this was a person doing less than $1,000 a month. She just sent me a message today. She is, in the last 6 months, had $50,000 in profit. So she's on pace to do a 6-figure year. But it took her probably 7 months of real hard work to get to that point. And now she's crushing it. So the answer is, yeah, you probably can't hire somebody.
Oh, that's not the answer. So we could hire you, only you've got really super.
But I'm not really doing it anymore. So just to put it in perspective, let me tell you what my rate was. And again, I'm not really doing this anymore, but we figured out a baseline. So if your baseline, you're doing $5,000 a month and you've done $5,000 a month in profit over the last 3 months, that's the baseline. Then what I would do is, again, I didn't run the ads. I didn't put them in the system. I wrote some of them. I did rewrite some of the descriptions. I coached up. I basically turn you into a decent copywriter. You run all the ads, and then every day you send me the data, and I analyze it. Every dollar over the baseline, I got 40% of. So if we got you to from 5 to 15,000, my fee was $4,000. If we got you to 100,000, which I didn't succeed in doing that, but that'd be a $40,000 bill, and I would be spending the same amount of hours each month. So the first month I would make nothing, and I didn't make anything about that last client for 3 months. But then my rate just kept going up because we had more success, and so that puts into perspective what sort of amount a person has to charge to be willing to commit 2 hours a day just staring at numbers, analytics. And the other thing is, I had 7.5 years background at Geico, where a 15-minute call could save you 15% on your auto insurance. I'm a trained data analyst. That's what I did for my job. Most people don't have the education and background to even do the analytics. And so in my book, and a lot of people talk about how, I tried to make the math fun. The ones that have written me and said, I'm finally doing 5 figures a month. I was doing less than 1,000 before I met you. I get a lot of those messages, and they all say the same thing. They bought the book, they read it, cried for a little bit, then they read it again, and by about the 3rd time through, they were pretty good. But most of the successful authors had some tears, and I tried not to make it painful, but there is math, and the separator between the ones that are succeeding and not are that they just said, screw it, I've got to learn. And it's not hard math. This isn't the sort of analytics that I did at Geico. This is beginner level, first grade analytics. But you have to get past that math phobia. And once you do, then that gives you a skill set you can use the rest of your life. And so,
yeah, this is what I wrote in the back.
It says, money made, money spent. That's ROI. Yes.
Yeah.
Isn't that a clever way to explain ROI?
I'm an English person, not a math person, so I had to write it down special.
That is fantastic. And
return on investment.
There was a message, a person, I don't know if it was my group or 20 books to 50K, but yesterday a person wrote a lengthy post about their experience in using sites to advertise their Christian fiction. And they went through and they did the number of sales they got, how much the ad cost. There was a ton of detail in it. It was incredibly helpful to new people who haven't used any of these platforms. And they had about 12 to 15 platforms, and they spent on each one $50 to a couple $100. And they had the ROI next to it. And they did not calculate it correctly. It was wrong. They didn't understand the formula for ROI. And so some of the ads looked like, she had one that was a 36% ROI, 36% return on investment. I'll take that all day long. The problem was it wasn't a 36% return on investment. And I wrote a response saying, I don't think you necessarily understand how ROI is calculated. And then I did the math on that one example. It was a minus 65% return on investment. She lost money. She lost money badly on it. But because she didn't do the math correctly, it showed a 36% return on investment, which is a good thing, but it was wrong. And so that's money spent, money earned divided by money earned. If people can remember that, then it was worth listening to this podcast.
Yeah, I think so. I'm going to be reading the book again when I set up my ads.
There you go. Any other questions from the audience?
We came up with loads of questions ahead of time. Ken McClellan asks, everyone says you have to change up your ads regularly. Does that mean a complete redo? Like if you had an ad that is performing well, but then it falls off to nothingness, should you rewrite the ad copy, new keywords, raise bids? Some people have dozens of ads running at once. I can understand if this is find what works, but if something works well one day, then drops off into the abyss, then what?
Okay, that's kind of what I was talking about. That will happen. And in fact, it should happen on all of your ads. They will all drop into the abyss. And if you understand that going in, you'll know that, first off, that person asked, should you make a copy of the ad and up the bid? No, because the faulty assumption, and again, everybody stop playing with Facebook or the cat, because this is important. The faulty assumption made by almost everyone is the ad isn't working, I have to bid more. No, the ad died because, you know what? When was the last time you saw Mean Joe Green in the Pepsi commercial tossing the kid his jersey? Well, most of you weren't born the last time that ad ran, because it was, I think, 1976. It was a famous Pepsi commercial. All ads die. The reason Geico doesn't run the ad with the three-headed guy anymore, which is from like 20 years ago, is because Geico only runs their ads for 3 or 4 months, and then they run new ones. Amazon doesn't want one ad running constantly. They want new, fresh content. So the nature of advertising is all ads get stale. The reason my more snark than a snarkopotamus ad stopped working is because it had been seen. I mean, it got 5 million impressions in that 6 weeks. I mean, so I beat it to death. But the point is, if you assume the reason the ad died was your bid, and then you make a copy and raise the bid, well, that ad is going to start to work. But it's not because you raised the bid. It's because it was a new ad. It's a new ad in the system. And so don't do that. Write a new ad, write new copy too, because they get stale. Use the same bid, or if it worked really well, bid 2 cents less, because maybe you're overbidding, and replace it. And have the expectation that your ads will all die, and they typically will run for about the same length of time. Once you find that sweet spot, you're going to find that an ad runs, and again, I have to stress this, you can overbid. If you bid 80 cents, it might run for 6 months. Great. But you're maybe paying 30, 40 cents per click more than you need to. And you don't want to do that. But if you find that sweet spot and you're running ads and you're replacing them, and you look at your data over the last 6 months, you're going to see that, you know what? Almost all the ads died after 8 days. And then maybe later on, they'll all be 14 days. But for whatever reason, it seems to be there's consistency about how long an ad will do well before it falls to nothingness and you should replace it. So to answer the person's question, when it falls into the abyss, it's not your bid. It's that the ad's time has come, and that's normal. That will happen with all of them, or should, if you didn't overbid. Kill it, terminate it, write a new ad, get it up, and watch it. And the other thing is, you shouldn't expect that the replacement ad will do great. Some ads just never turn on for whatever reason, or they do poorly. So maybe the next one you put up just is horrible. Don't panic and think, oh God, I have to increase the bid. Try another ad, and maybe that one does well. And so you just have to be cognizant that your first ad, and I think I mentioned this at the beginning of the show, your first ad will be pretty good because it's new to Amazon. And it's going to get a lot of exposure because of that newness. If down the road you've been running ads on your first book in series and your first box set or what have you, and you decide I'm going to spend some time running ads on books 2, 3, and 4, well, those ads for that first time you run them will do very well. And they may never do that well again. So just understand that, and you will be much less likely to panic. That's the motto in my group, is don't panic, taken from, of course, Douglas Adams.
So we do have one last question.
Fair enough.
This was an audience question from before that we've accumulated. Christina Johnson wants to know, how many gerbils does it take to hire you?
Well, first off, it's guinea pigs. Gerbils are so no gerbil at all. But I ironically do not own a guinea pig. And as a child we had hamsters and gerbils. Never owned a guinea pig, but because my very first book that I ever published, Henry Wood Detective Agency, because I followed this guinea pig on Twitter that was called Piggius Biggius, which I thought was funny, and he was a fluffy guinea pig. So I followed him, and this guinea pig wrote a blog that I followed about his parents' travel business, or his human's travel business, and he was snarky and delightful. I started following, and a lot of guinea pigs. There's an enormous amount of guinea pigs on Twitter. And so Piggius Biggius had this huge following of guinea pigs, and then I would write snarky comments, and I started getting followed by guinea pigs, and then I would follow them back. And before I knew it, I was following 50 to 100 guinea pigs, and I followed them on Facebook. And so I adore guinea pigs. I think they're adorable, and I can watch them eat veggies for like hours on end. But alas, no amount of guinea pigs is going to get me to shift my focus, because this year my focus is going from the nonfiction to I want to write 1 million words this year in fiction and do research on rapid release, and so that has to be my priority. But doesn't mean you can't ask me again in a couple of years. Who knows what I'll be doing then?
Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing all your wisdom. I wish we could talk for longer, but we've almost been talking for 2 hours.
Well, and I'm sorry that this is an hour-long show, but I get so wordy. I just go on and on and on.
That's okay. That's okay. We enjoy it. We love your company.
You're right.
But where can our viewers find you, your work, all that good stuff?
Okay, well, like I said, if you look tomorrow, I don't know what time it'll be live. Sometime tomorrow, I hope. If not Saturday. What day is it? Today's Thursday. Tomorrow's Friday. Yeah, sometime Friday, maybe Saturday. Mastering Amazon Descriptions. It is delightful. For those that haven't read my writing, and I think both of you have, I'm pretty snarky. So I try to take a dry subject and make it funny. So it will be an enjoyable read. You'll learn some stuff. The other thing is I have a Mastering Amazon Ads course, which is ironically very little is talked about on Amazon Ads. It's assumed that people that take the course have read Mastering Amazon Ads, my book, 2 or 3 times, and then they take the course, and it's almost all the art of analytics, the art of copywriting, doing back matter to improve your read through. Everybody does back matter wrong. I've done some research on that, and again, using proper copywriting, you can do some things that get more people to go from book 1 to book 2. And so that is at teachable.com, and it's just Meeks Masterclasses. And I made a coupon. If any of your listeners would like to take my masterclass, and again, I really stress it, don't do it if you've not read my book. If you've not read my book yet and haven't ever run any ads, the class is over your head. But for those out there that have, I created a 30% off coupon, and I used the initials from this very podcast, and I forgot what the writer's, what is it?
Journey.
The writer's journey. So TWJ is the discount code that will save you 30% off the course. And so that would be lovely. And the question I get most common on, if I take the course, can I like DM you on Facebook and ask questions? Yes, I love doing that. So, again, if you're new to being an author, there are many things you have to learn before you plunk down, $350 for my course, which is what it would be after the discount, because it's $495. But still, you may have some readers that have more experience, and maybe it's good for them.
This is Amazon Ads, the course, and then the coupon code is TWJ.
Yes.
30% off. That is awesomely amazing. Thank you so much.
Well, I'm just thrilled to have been on your show.
And thank you for coming. And I have 1,000 more questions. I'm sure Lauren has 1,000 more questions, but we do have to end it at some point. Very
exactly.
So thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us. As always, we love to hear from you. Hit the subscribe button. Show us some love. Send us comments. Give us a like. And for Lord Moore, I'm Kayleen Williams. Thank you for joining us on your writer's journey. Be sure to come back and join us next time as we talk about some reading, talk about some writing, and everything in between right here on Keystroke Medium. Happy Valentine's Day.